Hello, Todd Anderson here at the Pario Innovation Center, and we are very excited to show you the brand new Solatube commercial LED. As you can see here, we have both displayed. There are two different versions. We have LEDs for the 290DS, the 300DS, as well as the Solar Master version of the 330 and 750DS product lines. So the difference between the two, we'll look at this one first. This is the 290/300DS version. It is much smaller than the larger one here, obviously to fit inside the tubing. It is 3,250 lumens output with a 4,000K color temperature on it. Because it is smaller, we do have the 3,250 lumen output. It has a passive heat sink. And both of the products will share the same box. The Solar Master version will just have a larger driver on the inside to handle the amount of wattage that's going through there. And what we're looking at here with the larger version, because now this one is going to be 10,000 lumens versus the 3,250, so we had to add active heatsink to it just to help dissipate some of that heat that's generated because of the higher lumens out there that it's producing. We also have the same color temperature, so it is 4,000K. And both will be installed inside the tubing, as you can see here. So we heard the comments, and we heeded the call, and we've been developing this for many years now, and we finally come up with a solution. The call was to, hey, we got a lot of questions about adding daylighting or lighting systems into the integrated systems that we have here with daylighting. So what we've done is now we can produce natural daylight all through the day, and then at nighttime supplement with the LED lighting. And the other call was to help kind of clean up some of the ceiling portions, so you now have daylighting systems penetrated through the ceiling, and also troffers in there, and so it's very cluttered up on the ceiling space. And so now we're helping to eliminate some of that by adding this into here, and we have a nice clean system that allows for that daylight during the daytime, and then supplementing with the LEDs, and then also to help with the LED to supplement that in the waning hours of the morning and in the afternoon, or when it's cloudy out and you need a little help with the lighting. So we're very excited about this. We're going to show you some steps here of how to install it and how everything looks when it's in and it's actually in the space and working. So taking a look at application here, so there's got to be a little bit of thought process before installation. And one of the stipulations for the compliance portion of this is that we cannot be any closer than 6 inches up from the base of a natural effect lens or any diffuser. And so we need to make sure that we keep that in mind. So with the product being installed 6 inches up above, should be no problem here. We've got lots of space from the actual LED diodes that are facing down. We got lots of space for diffusion, so we're not going to have any issues there. And it's also going to be the same for the Solar Master product too. We're going to be up in the bottom two here, and diffusing that light all the way through this space here. So we got lots of space here. Where it will become critical, I think, is that when you're doing open bay applications, if you're 6 inches here up above, you might get that pinpoint spotlight effect on the diffuser. So really recommending a little bit higher on those open bay, so that you can get some diffusion through there, and that's going to be something that we're going to look at as well. And you want to make sure that there's no pinpoint or anything. We want to make sure that the customer is satisfied with the application as well. One other thing that you want to keep in mind too is that on any application, if there is dimming capabilities with the daylight dimmer, we want to make sure that the LED is installed below the dimmer. Could you imagine if somebody installed it up above it and turned off the light or closed the dimmers? There's no light at all. So you want to make sure that that's something that doesn't get missed as well. So that's a key point there. A couple of things to keep in mind before installing. You want to make sure that the junction box, because it is going to hang on the side of the tubing here, you want to make sure that it is not interfering with the junction box if you have dimming capabilities. So you'd see here, obviously can't go here because that's where the dimmer junction box is. And you want to make sure that it's at least offset or on the opposite side over here. So a little bit of thought process before installing and making sure that you're not interfering here. So for display purposes, we're going to remove the dimmer so we can actually show you how we're going to install the unit. So I'm just going to take this off. now we can see here on the tube itself where we're going to have the light kit installed. So typically there's going to be angles in here, and if that's the case, not a problem. So what we're looking at is designing this in a way, and designing and installing in a way that this is going to sit flush and level and pinpoint down into the space below. So obviously if you have angles, it's going to be kind of, you don't want it like this bouncing off the sides of the tubes. You want to make sure that the angles is still, or the LED is still flush and facing downwards. So that's something to keep in mind. Now keeping in mind too where the junction box was, if there is dimming capabilities, you want to make sure that you put that box on the opposite side. The side that's going to have the junction box connection is obviously going to be here where the wires are sticking out here. And we'll show you that. So application wise is installing, so we're just going to drill 2 holes in this tube. And what we need to use is a 1/2 inch drill. Can be used, but the best application is going to be a step drill. This is going to make the cleanest hole and easiest for application of the LED itself. So what we want to do, keep in mind that we want to keep 6 inches above the diffuser or effect lens, and we want to just drill 2 holes on opposite sides. We want to make sure that they're as even as possible, so we want to make sure that that LED is still level facing downwards. So what we can do is, and a side note here is that we're on top of a table. This can be either done in the plenum on a ladder, or it can be done from down below, drilling a hole in the inside as you're down below on a ladder here. For purposes of the video, we're showing you inside or outside of here. So we're going to drill 1 hole through. So that's why the step drill is really nice to use, because it makes a nice, clean, easy hole. And what we want to do is then just on the opposite side, we want to show here and drill a hole on that side as well. So now we have 2 openings in the tube itself, and we can actually put the LED inside and assemble it. All right, with the holes drilled, now we can actually apply the LED. And just keep in mind here, we're showing this on the 290, but this installation applies to the 290DS, 300DS, and also the SoloMaster. The application is going to be just the same for all 3 of the products there. So once you have the holes drilled, we can go ahead and take the LED itself, and we're just going to take the nuts off the assembly here. So we'll just take those off and remove the flat portion here, and then also on this side here where the wire's sticking out. So we're going to take those there. So now we're going to take and feed the wire through one side. Remember, always keep in mind where that junction box was if you have a dimmer in there. And what you want to do is then take from the inside, run the wires through here and feed them in so that the threads are sticking out. And then what you're going to do is just push down inside and then seat that way. The unit is a little heavy on the top side, so it will most likely spin like this here. Totally fine, not a problem. Next thing we want to do, and here I'll spin this for you guys so you can see, is the one thing I did forget to mention, is I'm going to bring it up now, is you leave the washers on the inside here. That's going to protect the spectralite infinity material on the inside and also seal off for any bugs or dust or anything like that to come inside the tubing. So we want to keep that on there on the inside and then push it here. Now we're going to reapply this section here. So we're going to put that washer here, and then we're going to tighten that nut in. Just hand tight at this point. We don't want to over tighten it because we have to still get the other side. Just snug. So we have it locked in, and then we can move back to the other side and now start with the junction box. So with the junction box, you just want to remove the cover. And then just want to get the wires out of the way so we can actually do the installation here. So what we're going to do is we're going to feed the wires through the inside of the junction box in this pre-drilled hole here, and we'll just feed those through, and that's where they're going to feed in. So we'll put it here and push it through that hole. Now we can then orient it whatever way we need to. If there's obstructions in the plenum, inside the attic space or anything like that, we can move it around to wherever we need to. For this purpose, we're just going to lay it flat here. And then what we can do is then feed the nut right over the top of those wires. and hand tighten on this side as well. So we just want it snug so we can finish the installation. Okay, so that's snug. What we're going to do then is use a tube screw, and in here, I know it's a little hard to see, but there's all these pre-drilled holes here, and what that's going to do is it's going to lock in the orientation of the junction box itself and take some of that weight off of the dimmer and the tubing itself, kind of lock it in and pull it all together here. So let's go ahead and just pick one of those and lock it in. And that's it. So now it's locked into place. So next thing we want to do is take a wrench, because we're going to tighten this in here so it stays secure. And we'll take a wrench on one side. Actually, we'll try to hand tighten as much as possible at first, so that's nice and snug with the hands. So then I'm going to go ahead and hold on one side and then continue to tighten the wrench with one side. And if you need to, sometimes it takes another wrench on this side here to help hold it, and then what you can do is then turn one. So we'll get it nice and tight, and what we're going to have to do at this point is now orient the LED to face straight down. That heatsink is going to be facing directly up so that LED can face straight down. So what we'll do is just give it a little turn here, and as we face it and it's nice and level, once it's in the right position, one of the key factors here is that we want to make sure that we get a good snug fit on here, so when we leave, that this thing isn't going to spin around. So we need to make sure to give it one final torque to make sure that it's tight and not going to move anymore. So what we can do is just then turn it, and then we're going to make one more adjustment if we need to. That's good and tight, and then we can just give it one more just because. So now that we've got the LED installed, now we're going to take a look at the wiring. We already have the box off, and so we can take a look at that. What we've done is conveniently added on the onboard on the box itself is a wiring diagram. So that's going to help your electricians or whoever's installing the wiring connections with the connections here. So that's conveniently added to the box there. What we're going to do is just take a quick look at all the wiring here. And you can see here, coming straight out of the connection that we just made, the two wires for the LED itself. So this is going to be the LED wire, and it's going to connect to very easily red to red, black to black over here. I'll make the connection in just a second, but I want to point out all the other wiring here. On this side here, it's going to be all of your line voltage that's coming through here. So this is your live wire that's coming through anywhere from 110 volts to 277 volts. 277 being typical commercial lighting applications. And then we have your control line. So the control line is where you're controlling from the wall switch. And that's going to be separate over there. So we got line voltage on one side, controls on the other. So let's take a quick look at the wiring. What we've done is we've conveniently added these quick connects here. Make it very easy for connecting wires together, and they are not the locking kind. They do come off, so if you just lift up on the tab here, they will actually pull off, and so you can make, if you make a mistake on a wire connection, you can very easily fix it. Just make sure that they're nice and tight. So let's go ahead and make one connection here. So we're going to make red to red. And what we want to do when we push it in, we want to make sure that we've got a really good connection. So we're going to clamp it shut, and we're going to give it a nice little tug to make sure that it's installed correctly. And let's go ahead with the black. So we'll take the black, push it in here, and it feels like it's in. I'll go ahead and lock it down. So next we want to connect the line voltage. And you can see here there are some pre-made knockouts for your strain reliefs, whether you're using regular strain reliefs or for shielded cable. You'll have these connects here. For the purposes of the video, we're not going to push the knockouts out. We're just going to show the wire connection. So over here we have the brown wire is going to be for your live wire that's coming in. So that's your voltage is coming in. Blue is going to be neutral, and then the two units over here, the green and the yellow, are going to be for your ground. So let's go ahead and make that connection. So we'll go ahead with the brown, with the live wire, we'll go ahead and push in. Give that nice little tug. neutral. That's nice and snug. And then we got our ground over here. So we can just take and flip one of these that aren't being used over. And it doesn't matter which one you're using, they're all going to be connected. And we'll go ahead and push that in. And we'll give that one a tug. Now see, I pushed that one down and it didn't come out. That's what I was trying to show on that last one. So we want to make sure that we give it a tug on each one of those to make sure that it is connected correctly, especially on the ground. We want to make sure that the system is grounded. So let's go ahead and push it back in, get it in properly, nice and tight. So before we move on to the control section, what I forgot to mention is the units we're going to show here, we're going to show a single unit being installed. We can do multiple units in say like classrooms, office spaces, warehouses, open ceilings, high bay applications as well. The nice thing with these quick connects, we can, and the design of this here is that we can actually go, instead of having to go loop all the way around in a space, we can actually go out and then tee out into different sections of the space to make it easier for wiring connections. So you don't have to run as much cable going round and round and round and looping around from first unit to second unit to third unit. This way we can go out in other directions. So it makes it really easy for application. And then we can do multiple units as well, as I mentioned, and we have that in the instructions as how many you can use per unit. So we'll show you that in the instructions. So we'll go ahead and make the connection for the controls. Now on the controls, we are utilizing currently in this application the Lutron DVTV switch that we offer. This is a 0 to 10 volt platform, and this is very easy to use, and this is something we already currently offer. So it's going to make it easy for simple applications that are not going to require multiple functions. So we'll go ahead and make the connection for the controls. And so we're going to do blue is going to be your red wire. So we're going to connect red to blue. That's going to be your positive, and then your negative is going to go to the white. All right, so for all intents and purposes, the wiring is connected correctly, everything is done. We can then go ahead and close up the box, push all the wires back in, and then put the box cover back over. So now that we've got all the application is already installed, we've got all the wiring connections done, we want to go back through and just check. So once power is energized to the system, we want to go back down to the controller and test the unit before we walk away. One critical thing that we want to make sure is on the bottom side here, there is a sticker or label here to protect the diode. Touching it with your fingers is not a good thing, so we want to make sure that we keep this on the entire time before we energize the system so that it's inside the unit and nobody's going to be touching it after the fact. So what we'll do is just take that sticker off so that we actually get light coming out of it, and we'll peel that off, and then you can actually see the diode right there. And so we'll keep that off and take it off. I'm going to put this one back on because we're just going to use it later. So prior to energizing it and testing it with that, we want to make sure they take off that sticker, and then we can go ahead and test it. So we test it with the 0 to 10 platform. So we got on and off toggle switch here, and then we have dimming capabilities with the slide on the side here. So now that we've wrapped up, let's talk about the most common question that comes up. How many units can I put together on one circuit? We're going to do a comparison of products. So with our 0 to 10 volt daylight dimmer, we know that we can calculate how many units can go on one circuit, and we can calculate that based off of there's no other other factors or any other controls that are being added to it. Lighting is much different, so there are going to be mandates for energy consumption, for time of use, making sure that there's occupancy sensors, motion sensors, light sensors, and stuff like that. So all those other factors will affect the load that is drawing off of that circuit. So we're going to discuss that in the instructions, but we can, going back to the comparison, we can clearly show you how many on the 0 to 10 volt daylight dimmer, but with here, because there's so many different factors that we have to work with a lighting designer to make sure that we're not going over the load for that one circuit. So keep in mind, Product Enterprise is here for you to help out, and we will definitely help you with any of those questions that come up. And again, we will clearly write down as much information that we can give you guys in the instructions so that it's not that much of an issue for you guys. So wrapping up, very excited to show this product to you. Whether you're doing a 290, 300 Solamaster product, closed ceiling or open ceiling application, the application we showed you here today will be the same for all. The installation is going to be exactly the same controls, connections, nothing changes. And we're very excited to help you with your projects, and we are here to help out. Please give us a call.